Bismillah, alhamdulillah. Welcome back. You're listening to Today Islam. We're broadcasting almost live all the way from Somerville, New Jersey. And I'm going to do it again. Assalamu alaikum. I like this guy. He goes all the way with it. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To you too. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. We're talking about today some proofs and the difference between history and his story. And when we talk about that, there's some very interesting things that have occurred over the centuries that people have a tendency to kind of overlook, just look the other way, just forget about that. People want to say something until you begin to bring proof, and then suddenly they say, oh, I'm busy right now. No, I don't have time for that. So this is very dangerous because it means somebody already has their mind made up and they don't really want to know the truth. For me, I'm a Muslim, alhamdulillah, but I'm ready to hear anything about Islam from somebody that's not a Muslim. If they've got a proof, tell me. Tell me. Or any subject. But bring proof. Don't bring opinions. Don't bring he said, she said. So I think it's good for us to move on to another topic and think about this. In America, we're, by the way, always right. Have you ever read any history books printed in America that ever said that America was wrong? That's pretty amazing if you consider that for over 200 years we've never made any real mistakes. That's fantastic. We've never done anything wrong to anybody any time, have we? According to his story, we're pretty great guys, aren't we? According to us. But that's circular logic, isn't it? If you have any doubt, just ask me and I'll tell you. Well, how do I know you're telling the truth? Because I never lie. Just ask me and I'll show you. Go ahead, ask me. Are you telling the truth? Yes. Oh, okay. Duh. Super duh. Anyhow, how many of you ever heard of the Maine? The Maine. You know what I'm talking about? There was a ship that sunk, and then they said, remember the Maine. Got it? Remember the Maine. I happened to visit an article on the internet about the Maine, and it said that in reality they think it just kind of sunk on its own. It was an old ship, and it sunk. But they made it out to be that some other country had terrorized it. I like to use that word, you know, seems to be a popular word. And they sunk it, so now we have to go destroy those people and remember the Maine. How many of you ever heard of this story? No? Oh, well, send me an email, I'll send you the link. You can read it for yourself. Read it for yourself and think about it. And while we're at it, how many of you know something about Pearl Harbor? Pearl Harbor, what year? 1941. Yeah, what day? December the 7th. What happened on December the 7th? The Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. Where's Pearl Harbor? Hawaii. By the way, one of the things I like to do is have fun. So I'm going to tell you that some people, especially certain European countries and some Asian countries, they transpose the V and the W. What we call the Volkswagen over here, if you go to Germany, it's called a Volkswagen. Did you know that? Volkswagen is Volkswagen. Das ist gut, ja? Sehr gut. And so, if you go to Pakistan, you will find many people there, they pronounce the we and the W, the V and the W backwards. Is that true? Well, of course. So there was occasion that a couple got married and they wanted to go to Hawaii. And on the way, the husband was saying, I can't wait to go to Hawaii. And the wife said, it's Hawaii. He said, no, Hawaii. She said, Hawaii. And all the way over they're arguing. So when they got there and they step off the plane, they have, you know, the girls are there. They put this lei around your neck, the big, like laurel or something, the garland or something. They put it over your neck. and they greet you and all. The people, as soon as they step up, they want to put this on him. He said, never mind that. He said, just one thing, settle an argument between me and my wife. He said, what is it? He said, is it Hawaii or Hawaii? She said, Hawaii. He said, thank you. She said, you're welcome. But what did happen in Hawaii? What took place in Pearl Harbor? And how come we weren't ready for that? Well, it wasn't until many years later that they discovered that, in fact, the intelligence gathering sources for the United States of America, in fact, did know that that was going to take place. They had at least advance notice by a week. At least by 1 week. Now, it may have been more, but the evidence says at least 1 week. This is a document which is public knowledge, and nobody can deny it. Although I've had people even jump on the stage and say, it's not true. And say, hey, it's just public knowledge. I live in Washington, D.C., by the Smithsonian Institute, by the Capitol, by the, why I know where the buildings are. I know where these people are and what they're doing. I mean, please excuse me, but it's also in the Washington Post. So it's true that they had the information. It was alleged early on, by the way, by certain people who said that Roosevelt did know about it. Roosevelt was the president in those days. And they said that Roosevelt wanted the war to take place. There were his enemies, obviously trying to make something against him, and I can understand their point of view, trying to say something. But it is interesting to note a couple of points. We had already been through a war called the War to End All Wars. It was not called World War I. You know why? Because there hadn't been a World War II. It was just called the War to End All Wars. We'd already been through that, and nobody in the United States was ready to go through it again. We lost too many of our boys. But our country was in a real bad depression. The depression had been going on since 1929, and by 1941, which is 12 years, we had suffered through an economic disaster unbelievable, never matched in the history of the United States, except in Jamestown. Okay? And they know you can make a lot of money out of wars, and you can also raise taxes, and nobody's going to say anything. You can get people to work for free, and they can't say anything about it, right? So in any case, this incident that took place in Pearl Harbor forced us to go into the second war to end all wars, now known as World War II. But before that, we would not join the so-called Allies because we weren't going to get involved. But once we'd been bombed, hey, now we're ready to kill anybody, especially if his eyes don't look right to us anymore. And they gathered up all the people in this country who were Oriental and put them in camps for years. And I gave this same talk I'm giving to you right now a few months ago in a building right next to my building in Falls Church, Virginia. They have condos over there, and this lady and her husband, very old people, came up to me, and they were Christian, very nice, and they said, you know something, we're so happy that you gave that talk tonight. I said, what? Why? She said, because I'm one of those people who was born in this country, and as a teenager, they picked me and my family up from the streets and put us in this camp, and we spent those years there and never knew what we had done. We didn't understand why they were doing this to us. And as a kid, she said, I couldn't understand my own country doing something to me like that. And it kind of made me cry because I realized that, through the eyes of this little girl at that time, she couldn't figure out what's going on. What did I do? What have I done? What's my crime? Crime is what? Well, you're just in the way when somebody wants to have a war, that's all. And hatred. There was so much hatred. I'm going to tell you something. I remember, because I'm an old guy. I remember that in the 50s and even into the 60s, we used to make fun of anything made in Japan. And by the 70s in our music business, they wanted us to begin to handle the piano and organ line called Yamaha. And we laughed at them. We told them, there's no possible way we're going to carry that Japanese junk. But by the way, Yamaha, and I'm not doing commercials for pianists because I don't do music anymore, but still, Yamaha is one of the very finest and best built on the market. and they were in the business, not motorcycle business. They were first